Hey guys, coming another movie for guys. Now this movie I'm reviewing, this movie that I definitely was very, very interested in. This was one of my most anticipated movies for the rest of the year, and I really didn't know what it was going to be. I remember we talked about it on the November movie preview, and finally I have seen it, and that movie is none other than Nocturnal Animals. Like I said, I was very interested in this movie. I got a very David Fincher vibe from this trailer. It seemed like a very mysterious film, and those are the kind of films that I really do love, where, you get to play detective and really figure out what's really going on, and that's something that I really was looking forward to this movie. And I have to say, to my surprise, Nocturnal Animals was not at all the movie that I thought it was going to be. It still is a really fucking great movie. Nocturnal Animals is by far one of the best movies I've seen the year. A very unconventional film that's really different than probably 99% of other movies you're going to see this year. But still a great film either way. But let's just get into the plot of Nocturnal Animals, because I really do love the plot of this movie. Basically, we focus on Amy Adams. She plays Susan Morrow, who is a very successful artist, and she's kind of at a point in her life where she has a husband who's not really providing for her and just isn't really there for her. But she comes across this manuscript. She gets, package from, and it's a manuscript of her ex-husband Edward Sheffield's new book, Nocturnal Animals, which he dedicates to her, and she tries to figure out, what it's really all about. And we see the events of that book unfold sort of through this murder case that kind of goes on in the book. I'm not going to spoil what happens in the book, but it involves Jake Gyllenhaal's character and his family. They go on a vacation, and something goes horribly wrong, and basically eventually these events are interwoven, and that's really all I'm going to say, because I don't want to say anything else about this movie. But that's really all I have to say about the plot, so let's just get right into this movie, starting off with the cast. Now, the cast is really something that really did draw me into this movie. I mean, this movie really does have an all-star cast. I think everyone, for the most part, really did a great job. But let's first talk about Amy Adams in this movie, because Amy Adams, once again, gives another incredible performance right off of Arrival, and this in 1 year is really incredible, the amount of, talent that she really has. And I wouldn't say that this is up there with Arrival. This is a very different kind of performance, because in Arrival, like I said, she was the observer. It was really her movie, and that's very much the case with Arrival. Nocturnal Animals is more a different kind of Amy Adams, which I'll explain more when we get to my analysis, because I'm definitely going to get into that. But her character in this movie I found to be very, very interesting. Susan Morrow is someone who, when we're introduced to her, we can tell right off the bat that she's not really happy with her life. She doesn't really like the way that her life has gotten, and seeing the events unfold, the way that her and Edward's relationship turned out, and the way that things turned out between those two, I thought overall was very interesting. I very much cared for her character, and I thought for the most part she did a really good job playing this character. A lot of the movie are, in fact, her reactions, and I think she did a really good job with that. But like I said, she definitely does play a very good role. I'm going to get more into her role when we get into the spoilers, but I thought for the most part she definitely was really good here. Don't know if she was as Oscar-worthy as she was in Arrival, but I thought she gave maybe just as good performance as she did in that movie. I think she still was really good here. Jake Gyllenhaal really was incredible here. Once again, another amazing performance from Jake Gyllenhaal. It's been a while since Jake Gyllenhaal really gave an incredible performance. Last time I saw Jake Gyllenhaal in the movie was Everest, which he was fine there, but he really did a great job in this movie, and he has to play two very different roles. He plays Edward, Susan's husband, who is a very interesting character. He's a very gifted writer. He's very passionate about what he writes, and I thought he did a really good job with that overall. You very much care for his character, and you can see the way the relationship went, and I thought that was really well done. But you're more drawn to him in the fictional world when he's playing Tony Hastings, who is this innocent math teacher who ends up, going through this horrible loss, and him in that role was really incredible. A lot of people said that there's a lot of over-the-top acting, but I really wouldn't say that. This is a man who's in grief, this is a man who's brooding, and I'm not going to say for what reasons, but I thought for the most part he did a really great job. He was incredible in this role, and this is another one of Jake Gyllenhaal's great performances. He continues to give amazing performances, and again, another must-see performance. I don't know if it's Oscar-worthy, and I don't know if this is the role that's going to get him an Oscar nomination, because he's kind of like Leo DiCaprio, except that he never gets nominated for an Oscar. I don't know if this is going to be it, but he definitely did do a great job, and I'd be very happy to see him get an Oscar for this. I wouldn't mind it. I just know this is really going to get him the Oscar, but I do think he did an incredible job here. I think he was definitely really good in this movie, but I don't think that he's the best in the movie. We'll get into that right now. by far the best actor in this movie, without a doubt, is Michael Shannon as Bobby Andres, who is this very mysterious detective who's helping Tony go through this case that he's going through, and their relationship is very interesting. This is someone who's very dedicated to the case. He seems to only be focused on that, and you don't really know why he's so interested in this. You know, what his goal is, what he's really trying to do, what he really thinks happened. I mean, there's a lot of mystery with his character, and they did that really well. But there's this terrific scene with him in a diner with Tony where they kind of talk about his life, and that scene in general has to be one of my favorite scenes of the year. I thought they did such an incredible job with that scene. Getting into Bobby's character, you really do feel connected to him, and I thought they did a really good job with that overall. In fact, my only complaint with the movie is where they end with his character. I don't know if that was exactly the right point to end, but I thought I liked what they did with him overall. He definitely was really good. Let's talk about Aaron Taylor Johnson here, because wow, what an incredibly unrecognizable performance this is. I mean, when I say Aaron Taylor Johnson is unrecognizable, you won't even believe me when I say it's Aaron Taylor Johnson, but it is in fact Aaron Taylor Johnson as, I guess, our main villain here as Ray, who is the source of what happened to Tony, and this is someone who you hate him the second he comes on screen. You don't want to see him. You want to see him die the second that he comes on screen, but he has such gravitas in his acting, and he's so committed to what he's doing that you can't help but just soak in with every single line that he's saying, and everything you believe what he's saying. You see how terrible of a person he really is, and I think he really did do a really great job here. It's a very hard role to pull off when you're playing such an unlikable character, but he really did rise to the occasion. I think for the most part, Aaron Taylor Johnson was really good here. I really love what he did, and the only other person I really want to talk about is Armie Hammer, who plays Amy Adams' husband in the non-fictional world of Hutton. I found to be a very interesting character. This is someone who, I wouldn't say he doesn't like Susan, he just doesn't really have the love and care that she wishes he had, and the relationship really has not gone that well, but I thought for the most part he did a really good job. I really liked his performance, and I thought overall all the acting here was really good. Everyone really did do a great job, and definitely everyone should be commended for their acting. But let's get into the writing and the directing, because I think as good as all the performances are, the real star of this movie, without a doubt, is Tom Ford. I mean, talk about such an audacious and different type of movie, and I really do give him credit for doing something that was so different and was so unconventional from the other way that stories are done. I think he just did a really great job with that, especially when, you know, it's everything's so PC and everything's so standard nowadays. I like that he really did take the time and did something really different here, because the tone for this movie, for the most part, works really well, I have to say. I think his tone for this film, I definitely thought worked really well. It's a very mysterious film. You don't really know what's going on a lot of the time, and that's something that I definitely really did enjoy. And it's the thriller aspect of it. This is a very thrilling film. You're on the edge of your seat many times here, and I thought his directing was just really well done. You can definitely tell that what he wanted to do, he did really well, and I think this movie really was meticulously directed. I honestly could see Tom Ford possibly getting Best Director at the Oscars. I definitely could see that happening. I don't think he's going to get it, but I think he is going to get nominated, definitely, because he did an incredible job directing this movie, and I think he definitely should be commended for it, because he definitely did do a great job with his directing. And as far as the screenplay goes as well, this is one of the most different types of screenplays that you're going to see this year. This is, in fact, a frame story, which if you don't know what this is, like I said, it's really 3 stories in one, but the way that the frame story is told is really interesting, and the way that he makes all these events and he interwovens the narrative is not exactly in the way that you'd expect, and it's definitely a movie that, like I said, is really a film you need to dissect and really think about, because I'm not gonna lie, there were things in the movie that I did not understand the first time I watched it, and after I watched the movie I didn't really understand, but then when thinking about it, like I'd say an hour later, because it's been about an hour since I watched this movie, now I really do understand it, and that's something that I really do love that Tom Ford did here. The way he connects everything, you can really tell that I think his vision really was achieved here, and that's something that I definitely was very happy to see. I think he did a really great job with the screenplay here. I thought the story, all 3 stories are really interesting. I thought neither story was boring. None of the stories really got interesting, and I really did love the way that all the events unfold. I thought just in general he did a really great job with the screenplay, definitely. And it's such a different, it's very, two any, casual audience goer, this is a very different kind of, all the stories are different. When you really think about it, really is one big story, and that's something I definitely really did love that Tom Ford did really well here. And again, it's not really something that you can just kind of figure out on a whim. It's something you really take time to figure out, but I really do love that Tom Ford did that, because movies that require you to think, I think really do show how genius these directors really are. And there's a lot of influences from Tom Ford. Like, you definitely do see a lot of David Fincher in what he's doing, but there's definitely David Lynch in there as well, and even I'd say a little bit of Nicholas Winding Refn. There definitely is, the weird stuff that Nicholas Winding Refn does, especially the opening credits. Holy shit, are they weird. Might be the weirdest opening credits I have ever seen, honestly. I've never seen such a weirder, abrupt opening credits. I mean, very strange the way that was done, but again, I think he did a really great job with that, and that's something that Tom Ford did really, really well with the screenplays. I completely defied all your expectations, and especially if you watch the trailer, you think you know this movie's going to be. It's not that at all. I thought this was going to be like a Gone Girl type movie. Not that at all, and I was very happy to see that. Now, the cinematography here, I also thought, by far, some of the best I've seen in a year. I mean, this movie really is so glossy, and you can tell what they were really doing with the cinematography the whole time. And the cinematography in all three stories really is its own character. When we're in Amy Adams' time period, it's all kind of like glossy and it's all kind of realish, and that's something that I definitely really did love. When you go to the story, it's all dark and many scenes are filmed at night and it feels like kind of a Western, and that's something that I thought was really cool. And then when you get to the past with Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal, it's very, it's very much kind of the same, but I thought the cinematography was just really well handled here. There's definitely some very glossy cinematography, and that's obviously not really a surprise. Tom Ford is in fact a fashion designer first, director second, but he did a really great job with cinematography. I definitely really did appreciate cinematography. That's something I definitely will commend him on. My only problem with Nocturnal Animals, as much as I did enjoy, is I do think that some of the secondary characters didn't necessarily get the closure they deserve. Specifically, Michael Shannon. He kind of did. He's in the movie definitely for a big amount of time, but he kind of disappears after a certain point in this movie, and I don't really think they wrapped up his character in the best way they could have. But other than that, I really don't have any other complaints. I think that some of the characters, like I said, were just a little bit underused, and there were some cuts that I thought were kind of didn't really need to be there and were kind of in your face. So for the most part, I thought the cinematography was really good here. The score is incredible. I love the score of this movie. It's so epic, it's so mysterious, and it just feels so important. Like, it's a really theatrical score, and I definitely want to see this be nominated for Best Score because I love the score, definitely. The second the movie opened, they play the score, and it is beautiful. I really did love the score overall, and it really does heighten the tension and the emotion of the movie, and I really did love that. And the editing here, this is a movie, like I said, that is very quickly edited, and some people might think is very choppy, but when you really think about it, it makes sense why it edited in the way it is. Constantly throughout this movie, we cut from Jake Gyllenhaal's look to the look of Amy Adams and kind of see the way that they're going through the same thing. And the way they did that, again, it's not easy to tell, but that's something I thought was really cool. It's very unconventionally edited, and that's something, again, that I will very much commend the movie on. A movie that wants to be different, and a movie that wants to be something completely audacious from anything you've seen before is a movie that I obviously have to commend, and that's something that I definitely loved about this movie, is really just how different this movie ended up being, and how really, in my opinion, it really did seem like it was all Ford's direction, which I think was very well executed. So now that I've talked about all the technical stuff and the acting things, now I'm going to get into spoilers, because for me, this is a movie that you really cannot talk about without delving into spoilers. I want to talk about the deeper meaning behind this movie. Do not watch the rest of this review if you want to watch Nocturnal Animals. I'll tell you right now, again, if you are someone who doesn't like unconventional films, this is not all the movie for you. This is a movie that you go in, and it's very different than anything you've seen. I'll definitely will say that. It is not at all your typical movie, but I want to just delve right into it and talk about what I really think the movie is truly about, because it's kind of hard to tell, really. And I will definitely say, coming out of the movie, I didn't really know how to feel. I really didn't know, especially when it came to the ending. I really did not understand it. But let me just say that I think what the movie really is about is two things. One, it's very much about revenge. I think the way that Jake Gyllenhaal dedicated the book to Susan, and he sent it to her and he wanted her to look over it and see how it really was, is not so much of him trying to apologize or trying to forgive her, which I think is what she thinks he's really trying to do. This is more of him trying to, contact her, seek her out, and forgive her for what she did because, the relationship turned out so sour. She thinks that's what he's trying to do. I think what he really was trying to do was kind of give her a taste of royal medicine, show her this is what you have to me, this is what you did to me, this is how you made me feel, and this is the life that we could have had. And I think everything that we see in that story is kind of the life that he wanted with Susan. A quiet life where he had, he had a wife and a daughter, and he would have really enjoyed that life that he had with her. But then them getting raped and them getting taken away is exactly what Susan did when she had that abortion. She took that child away from him. They could have had this great life together. They could have had a daughter, and he could have had a very loving family, but it was all taken from him, in a blink of an eye, just by one horrible decision that she made. And honestly, when you really think about this movie in that way, Susan is the true villain of this movie. I mean, she's what set up the novel. Without the novel being, without, her having that abortion and going to that abortion clinic and, making that decision, even though she was very reluctant to do so, none of this really would have happened. I don't think the book would have been made. I don't think he would have been as, standoffish as he was, and I definitely don't think the end of the movie would have played out nearly in the way it did. But that's something that was really well done here, is the way the movie really is all about consequence, and the way I think she starts to see that is something that was really cool here. And especially when they cut back to what Jake Gyllenhaal is doing and cut to her, I think she really starts to see where the relationship went. And one of my favorite scenes in this movie that I think really well shows that is the scene where he's talking to her about what he wants her to be, which you can tell he wants her to be kind of like Isla Fisher in the book, where she's a very caring wife and she's very loving and kind of, lets him provide for her. But that's not the life that she wants. She wants, to be an artist. She wants to have her own empire and everything. And she doesn't want to live a quiet life. She wants something that's a lot more big city. And even though that's what, you can tell that her mother wanted to do, that's kind of what she wants to do as well. And I think the way that turned out, I thought was very interesting. But we can tell that in reality, that's not really the life she wants. She really only did that, I think, to please her mother and kind of just to conform with her mother, because you could tell she really was not winning against her mother. Her mother said, you are going to become exactly who I am. And that's exactly what's happened. When their mother says, that I knew that was going to happen, that's exactly what has happened to Susan. She has exactly become like her mother. She's, she has a very resentful life and a very uncaring husband, and she has pretty much everything that she wants, and yet she doesn't have the life that she really desires. And that's mainly because when she was with when she was with Edward, she felt, like she was in love. She felt love, she felt empathy, and she felt like she had someone who truly cared about her. But that was all taken away, and by making this one decision, she can never go back to that life. And that's something I think that was very well shown. And the very last scene of the book, let's talk about that. The scene that ends with Tony dying, him shooting, him actually shooting Ray, and him dying and then him getting the crowbar to his head. To me, that's less of a showing that, oh, Tony died, and that's more of him saying, this is how our relationship died. Him shooting Ray is him abandoning Susan, it's him going on his own, and it's him writing the book. I think him writing the book is the last straw. This is him saying, look, this is what you've done to me. This is basically a metaphorical analysis of what our relationship has been. This is what you've evoked. These are the emotions that you evoked in me, and this is probably the last time you're ever going to see me. And the way that he abandons her, I think he did that more to give her a taste of royal medicine, because I think there's a part of him that kind of wanted to see her, but at the same time, I think he told her everything that he wanted to. There really is nothing else that he could have told her. After the book was made, he told her how he felt. He told her how he really felt about her making this decision, and there really was no going back after what she did, and it's very sad to see, but the way the movie ends, it's very inevitable what's going to happen there. I mean, she's going to have to go back to this life, and even though she wants to run away from it, it's too late now. She has this huge art empire, and she has this very rich husband and a life that she really does not want, but it's the life she chose. And she can't run away from it. And that's something I really did love about this movie, is that the movie really is showing that while we might want to run away from our lives and while we might want to start over, sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you're just too far deep into something that you have to just keep going. And that is exactly what Susan has to keep doing. She has to keep going. She has to keep knowing, really what's going on there. And that's something that I thought was very well done. The only character that I don't fully understand their importance in the novel and what that really is representing of Susan and Susan and Edward's relationship is Michael Shannon's character. I don't really know where he fits into their relationship. I just know that Tony is obviously Edward, Ray is in fact Susan, and then India and Laura is Isa Fisher's character, and Elle Bamber. That is the life that they could have had together. That is everything that he wanted them to be, but that is everything that she destroyed, and because of that, they can never go back to that life. And I think it's just a very well done analysis. I think it's showing, really what a relationship can do. And again, it's not an easy theme to think about, but when you really think about the way that these are interwoven, of her taking off her glasses, or that scene where he's lying down, she's in the bathtub and she says, Edward, this is, I think, the moment where she realizes that Tony is in fact Edward, and what he's really doing is in fact trying to, show her, this is what you've done. It's not really a cry for help. It's not really that. It's more like just a call of, showing her what he did to her. And I think she knew what she was doing was wrong. We clearly saw she knew what she was doing was wrong, but she can't go back to it. And I think the movie very well shows that. Again, it's not something that's easy to tell. I could be very wrong what I'm doing, with what I'm saying, but for the most part, I think I understood what the movie was really trying to do. I think I really understood, the importance of everything. I think I might understand it more in a second watch, but for right now, that's my analysis. That's what I understood. And I definitely will say, out of all the analysis I've done this year, this is probably the most easiest one to understand. I definitely will say. I know a lot of people are struggling with the analysis, but when you really think about it, it's not too hard, and that's something I definitely will say, is that really just think about it, and I think it will come to you. Other people might have other analysis, and there might be other interpretations of it, but that's personally what I got from it, and that's really all I have to say when it comes to the analysis. So overall, guys, Nocturnal Animals is one of the most unconventional and different films that I have seen all year. I really did love this movie. Like I said, other than a few ends from some characters, I don't really know why they ended in the way it did. This is a fantastic mystery that's also a thriller, that also is a great Western, that combines those three elements very, very well and presents a one of the most well-done frame stories I've seen in a very long time. And I am for sure going to give Nocturnal Animals a 4.75 out of 5. Or an A. I absolutely love this movie. I think this movie really is incredible. It is not a movie for casual moviegoers at all. It is a movie that I think if you are a casual moviegoer and you look at it very straightforward, you're going to leave this movie very unsatisfied. But when you really think about it, and if you're someone that really likes to dissect movies, this is totally the movie for you. It is one of the most satisfying and depressing endings of the year, but it's a very well-warranted ending. It's kind of the ending that the movie needed to have. It might not be the ending that we want to have, but it is in fact the ending that the movie deserved, and I think they did that really, really well here. I really did love the way the movie's done. It will for sure be in my top 10 list, and definitely has become one of the most unconventional, different thrillers I've seen, but also one of the best I've seen all year, without a doubt. So overall, guys, I'm reading Nocturnal Animals. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall. Loved your thoughts on it. Do you have the same interpretation that I have in terms of the analysis? Again, it is still a bit rusty, but I think I understood it more than some of the other ones that I've done. And that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next, which will be for the mid-season finale of The Vampire Diaries, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.